I know. It's almost over. That's okay. Had some thunder boomers early this morning, but it looks like everything's cleared up. We got some sunshine right now. And of course, it's a little warm outside, but it's a breezy warm. That's about that. Hope you had a good weekend. Um, man, this election, these amendments, all four of them gone. See ya. We won't be ya. Because y'all said, we don't trust it. We are not putting up with this. Our clerk of criminal court is going to join us in just a bit. He's going to call in about 4:20 and have some conversation with us. That is Darren Lombard to give us, because he handles all the election information. So the Honorable Darren Lombard is going to be with us in just a bit to give us all the official data. And I said, boy, who would have ever thought that folks would have showed up to the polls on this one? But you did. And we're going to give you all the statistics. So as I look at these numbers statewide, parish-wide, and I looked at the number of people that showed up to the polls to vote, it was great to see that we finally got one in. But what was it? Was it the weather? Was it the folks that saying, nope, we're not going to put up with this? Or whatever. Let me go over some of these numbers here so that we'll have some idea where Mr. Lombard is going to talk about for this parish only. I'm going to talk about Orleans Parish just for a minute. We'll go through the statewide number 2. In Amendment 1, 9% of the folks said yes. 91% of the folks said no. And the no had over 74,000 votes in it. The yes had 6,972 votes. So altogether, the official turnout had me fooled. I said, we need to make sure that we don't have no 9-10% turnout. And what we had, 30%, 30.8% on all of them, 30.8%, except for the Lakeview crime prevention stuff. That was 27%. We'll get to that too. But on amendment number 1, 91% of you said no. 9% said yes. On amendment number 2, 9% of you said no. 91% of you said, 9% of you said yes. 91% of you said no. Same thing for Amendment 3. 9% yes, 91% no. The judgeships, to vacate the office of the judgeship, I was like, 10% of you said yes, but 90% of you said no on that one too. And in the Lakeview Crime Prevention District, this was $150 on your parcel. I think this was a renewal for the next 10 years. But that's in Lakeview. It was 56% of you saying yes, 44% of you saying no, 27% turnout. But all the rest of it, 30%, 30.8%. That seems to be the magical number to get things handled. 30.8% of you turned out to make sure that you voted no on those amendments. Now, your governor came back and said, I think something harsh toward the voters. It was like he was right, we were wrong, and we didn't do what he asked us to do. So he basically made a statement, and I said, he said, although we are disappointed in tonight's results, we do not see this as a failure. we realize how hard positive change can be to be implemented in a state that is conditioned for failure. What? We realize how hard positive change can be to implement. We realize how hard it is to put in positive change in a state that is conditioned for failure. We're conditioned for failure? That's what Governor Landry said, saying that Louisiana is conditioned for failure.
I would like to say something.
Hmm.
It's because of that comment that he made that I feel with the energy we had to come out and make these amendments a no across the board. Remember this energy when it comes time for the gubernatorial race, however you say it, the mayoral race, the presidential race, and the midterms. Keep that same exact energy. And that's all I got to say about it.
Well, 504-582-9422 is the number. I was just wondering how y'all felt about your governor saying y'all is conditioned to be implementing failure. Because it looked like for many folks, this ain't no failure. For a lot of folks, this is success. Instead of getting into the shenanigans and seeing what folks were going to say. So I think that's interesting. What you say, Mr. Elmore?
Yes, sir. No, I just think, in just my opinion, that the governor was trying to, I guess, follow a path of his dear leader.
Mm-hmm.
You know who his dear leader is, Trump, and it just backfired on him. But I think what's a good thing. I think that whether, conservative mega Republicans are waking up. Why I don't care, but I'm glad that some of the voters, which they're never going to say they voted for Trump. That's all something about politics. They're waking up to the point where they don't want. They might love their dear leader, but they may not love their governor. That's a Republican and mega.
Yeah, that too. I think that a lot of it's so many different factors that I think that we can put in what just happened here. And it made national news. I was watching The View this morning, and Sunny Hoskin, she made it a point to bring that up, that all those measures, those amendments failed this weekend, and they gave it a big applause. So I was like, didn't take long for that to get around. So what this ended up being for our governor, I think he got egg on his face. I think it's embarrassing to him. It ain't embarrassing to us. Most of the folks I know, and probably we're actually going around dapping up one another. We found like we finally got the victory. So, but there are a lot of factors that came into these folks voting, which I think we're going to discuss in just a bit.
But Jerron, I'm giving you opinion. I was really getting disappointed in our government in terms of where we were taught in civics, and as I got older to understand the three branches of our government. But I'll be very honest with you. It looks like what's going on is nobody's gonna say anything. But you take some of those conservative judges, and they can't say they are political understanding because they want to be impartial. But I tell you, it look like some of those conservative judges, be it the state, federal, local levels, they kind of stand up in a way, they're throwing monkey wrenches in what Trump trying to do. So I got to give them, some kudos because they're really stopping now. I'm not saying it's completely stopped, but they're holding some of this foolishness, and hopefully, let me say this: the Supreme Court is the key, and even though most of the appointees are conservative, let's keep a watchful eye because they may throw some monkey wrenches in some of the things that Trump is trying to do, believe this or not,
Mm-hmm. You are correct, though. You are correct. All right, Mr. Elmore, thank you, sir.
Hey, man, a pleasure, man, because I ain't even talked to you. I was lost and found because normally I call you during the week, but, man, it was a rat race last week, but appreciate talking to you.
Yes, indeed. Same here. I'm glad to talk
All
to
right,
you.
brother.
All right, talk to you in a minute. Elvin. Elvin,
What, G?
what's going on with you?
Oh, nothing much, buddy. Just sitting back talking. Welcome to the WBOK family and them fly-by listeners and our new drive-by listeners. So, G, I've been trumping at the bench since that comment. I'm just like, really, dude?
Well, him saying that, you talking about the governor?
Yeah. I'm like, so if we condition to failure, what that says about you
Right,
and your party, because y'all been the ones that's been in control.
right.
Yeah, we got these major black cities and blah, 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 but we know y'all got the money strings in the money bag. So, really? That's what you coming with?
Yep.
Instead of just saying, okay, let's look at this and look at it a different way. Because first of all, Playboy, you know, how you want to put in an amendment, put in amendments where you saying one thing and then doing another on the backside of the amendment that the people can't read. You put the good stuff up front, i.e. the first one, Amendment 1. Basically, you talk a state-run specialty court that the legislature get to pick the courts? Really? So now we want the people that supposedly are smart enough to make laws to also be judges? If you wanted to be a judge, go run to be a judge. That's what we got the executive branch or the judicial branch for.
Well, in this situation, he didn't want anybody running for judge. He wanted to be able to appoint the judges.
Exactly. That's my point, though.
Yeah.
You know, you know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then you try to put in a pay raise for the teachers that make it look like you were going to do so much stuff for the teachers, but then turn around and say, well, we're going to take the money away from them. We'll be able to take. So, so let me go ahead and tell you, let me go ahead and say in your checkbook, you're going to take your money out your savings account that you've been saving to buy a house with to just go spend at the strip club. That's what we're doing now?
Well, okay, and in this one, what was not discussed and which needs to be discussed is that money that was being put in as a $2,000 bump in pay raises was not for everybody. And you're talking about public schools. And remember, situation just like Orleans Parish, it has charter schools. So a lot of that money would not make it to these teachers. That's number one. Then if you look at the verbiage of that, it says temporary. It does not say across the board for all teachers forever. It says temporary.
So we conditioned to failure, though.
So, but we're conditioned to. I just think that a whole bunch of folks probably learn how to read.
Thank you. But remember, though, we conditioned for failure, though.
Yep.
So now you're telling us. So now you're gonna pee on our leg and tell us that it's raining, and then gonna tell us, yeah, trust me. Nah, bruh. And again, if you want to don't nobody have a problem with you wanting to do a constitutional convention or reform or whatever.
Oh yeah, they got a problem with it. We got a problem
But you can't bundle it all in one thing and then try to show one thing up front and then behind the scenes and in a small writing that not thinking that nobody going to read and understand the small writing and put it where you just going to nullify what you just said you was going to do in the beginning.
Well, a lot of people got the explanation. So I'm glad that a lot of people got the explanation.
Yeah,
so
a lot, G. And then I'm gonna go with this one, G. And then just the fact for you to say where it was whoever George Soros is and the libertarian. Say, bro, I'm gonna say like the lady said on TV. It was 65% across the board. That's more than just liberals and woke agendas and all these other speaking points that you putting out there, dude.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, bro. Respect our mind. We are voters.
Yeah.
Even though we might not have voted for you, but we still live in the state. Won't you concentrate on trying to get with the doggone insurance commissioner, and won't y'all get our insurance rates down? Won't y'all work on that? Won't you work on some of these roads? Won't you work on some of these type of programs to get some of these housing and some of these energy bills down? How about that? Instead of just trying to get some power.
Ain't that something?
How about that?
No.
All right, G.
Always good, my
Take
brother.
it later.
All right, talk
All
to you in
right,
a
now.
minute. All right, we got more coming up in a minute, y'all. We got to take a break here. We're going to come back. Hopefully, we'll get Darren on and have some conversation about these numbers. So we'll go through these numbers with you on these amendments and see what people were thinking. What were you thinking when you voted? 504-582-9422. More coming up.
Hello, friend. Tavis Smiley here with a special announcement. You can catch my show at a new time, weekdays from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Same great topics, same great guests, same great conversations, just a little earlier in the day. It's Tavis Smiley, weekdays 1 to 4 p.m. only on WBOK 1230 a.m. What New Orleans is talking about.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana companies through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about what the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation does, please visit www.jazzandheritage.org.
Do you know what United Way can do for you and your community? Find out by listening to United Way and You every Thursday at noon on WBOK 1230. United Way continues to fight for the most vulnerable members of the community. Find out how this Thursday and every Thursday at noon.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM. Here we go. The reality check on WBOK 1230 AM.
All right, folks, welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Gerard Stevens with you. Big election over the weekend. Everybody's like jumping up and down and turning flips and a couple other things here because of the number of people that showed up to the polls over the weekend, and it looked like 60-some% of you, somewhere between 62 to 64% of the folks in Orleans Parish showed up to the polls over the weekend, and that's not even the state numbers. I'm just going through Orleans Parish numbers. So trying to get some explanation, and I think it's a sad day when I got to ask what the explanation should be that why folks showed up to the polls. But I know that he's got all the answers. The Orleans Parish Criminal Clerk of Court and also Chief Elections Officer for Orleans Parish, Darren Lombard, is on the phone with us. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. How are you, brother?
Good.
I heard you were looking for me, man.
Yeah, bro. I've been looking for you in the daytime with a flashlight. I said, I need to know what's going on. What's going on? Hey, bro.
You got to look for.
First of all, thank you for picking up the phone. I know I'm last minute here, but I was looking at these numbers and saying, what happened? And I think it's a sad day when I got to ask why folks showed up to vote.
It was a few things. These amendments are somewhat controversial, as I'm sure you know, and many other folks have been discussing it throughout the last month or so. That was part of it, the being controversial. The other part of it was the weather, which caused a couple of parades to be canceled, which is, a good thing in this case. I think people are taking things a little bit more serious as they watch what's going on the national scene and state scene, dealing with more localized stuff like what's going on in our state.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a combination of all of those that brought out the vote and had people excited to participate.
One of the things, too, that kind of got me was the comments that came back from the governor after the failure of those amendments. And I was just wondering, to be the leader of our state and for you to come back and say that, we're what was it? He said, we realize how hard positive change can be to implement in a state that is conditioned for failure. Oh, I didn't know we were conditioned for failure.
I didn't know that either. But he's a Trump guy. He's a MAGA guy to the core. And the way I look at that is that's the party line from his side of the aisle currently, and that's unfortunate.
Yeah, for him to say that we're just basically just ready for some failure. I was like, to me, it looked like you need to save face right now because the people see through this whole scenario of these through these amendments. Now, I know I can't get you in a political conversation, but I also wanted to look at it and say, would you by any chance already know what the demographics were? Were young people out here on the streets saying, let's go vote?
Being the person who was out and about, spreading the message about voting and the rate at which we vote and how that affects the overall scheme of things, I've gotten to see that the younger people are getting more and more and more involved. In the previous elections over the last year or so, particularly since the last election where Biden was elected, there was a noticeable change with young folks. They seemed like they were getting more and more involved verbally.
Mm-hmm.
However, the turnout wasn't indicative of that. And now they're starting to get more and more intense about the way they reach out to their demographic, which I love.
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love it. Older folks, we're going to show up to vote.
Right.
People within a certain demographic are always going to show up to vote. But, to get the younger folks involved and get them engaged and realize how these things are going to affect them directly helps immensely. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited about it, man. I was excited from the minute I stepped into the first polling place I visited election day. I could tell before I pulled in the parking lot what kind of day it was going to be just from that. And, there was a lot of people walking in and out, casting their votes, getting engaged, talking about it on their way in and out of it.
Mm-hmm.
I encourage people because I can't, as you say, I can't get political about it.
Right.
I encourage people to reach out to and do their research and talk to nonprofits that specialize in reviewing amendments and things of that nature, because sometimes that is worded in a way that even attorneys have problems with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, it seemed like people were listening and getting more engaged. I noticed that the pastors were involved as well, spreading the message as they always do, and that helped as well. The elected officials
mm-hmm.
were all out and about. All of them were out and about, spreading the word about how they felt about it. Those who even were involved in the crafting of these laws
mm-hmm.
or had to vote against them were out spreading the word about what they'll do. And it was refreshing to see. I think we should do that every election, though.
You said something from the beginning that was interesting to me, and you brought up the weather, because we were supposed to have a bunch of severe weather, would also canceled a lot of events, parades, and other events and things of that sort. So
mm-hmm.
if that was a lesson learned when we look at our election days, maybe we need to make sure that, we don't have so many events going on so people will go vote, because a lot of folks don't go vote the day of because something else is going on and it slips their mind, or they think they can go and they don't make it in time.
Exactly. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that's going on. We're all busy. We're getting into things during the course of our days, particularly on the weekend when we get a break to go have some fun. And that's all cool. But that's why I always focus prior to the election day for people to go out and vote early.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's an opportunity over 7 days that you can pick your spot to go, cast your vote. And it's been improving over the years, but it's still not where it needs to be. And when that gets to be a good thing, I mean, a common thing for people to do, I think, the turnout will improve as well.
Okay. I looked at the overall numbers, and then I looked at the Orleans Parish numbers, and each one of them had probably an official turnout of 30.8%, other than the Lakeview Crime Prevention District, which was 27.3%. But
right.
Is that good? 30%? I mean, it's supposed to be better than 30%, but is that Is that an
I'm gonna
increase?
tell you like this. I'll take it in this situation because when we have these elections where it's just a proposition or some neighborhood proposal or something of that nature or a millage, those typically don't do well by themselves. They got to have a headliner, and particularly like in a big race, say a mayor's race or something like that, where there's hotly contested races and people will turn out for those at a better rate. But, listen, I will say this. The typical race of this nature usually has problems getting out of the teens. So, I'm excited about it. It was close to the kind of turnout that we had in the last governor's race, if not better. So if we can just keep this going and build on this, I think our politics would be different. And look, people don't realize, particularly Democratic voters, they don't realize that there's more Democrats, registered Democrats in the state than there are Republicans.
Right.
And the numbers swings back and forth. A couple of elections ago, there was nearly 50,000 or so more. I take that back. Let me correct this. It was almost 150,000 more voters statewide that were Democrats and Republicans. So just do the number. If we voted at the same rate as the Republicans, we would win.
Mm-hmm.
The state would be blue.
Mm-hmm.
To be frank.
Yeah, I can say we can turn it blue.
This is really, registered voter wise, is a blue state, but the voters don't
get out.
Rate. They don't get out and vote at the same rate other parties do, and that affects the overall scheme of things.
So
had we voted along those lines for the governor's race, we'd have a different governor. If nationally we had voted along those lines, we'd have a different president.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's. I don't think people realize just what kind of situation they're in. This is not a hopeless situation. The state literally can turn blue overnight if everyone participated.
Now, one of the things too that I'd say is the fact that I think the governor has made it a point to let everybody know he is licking his wounds after the fight, and he lost. So now he's licking his wounds. So he made that disparaging comment about, we are just geared up for failure. But he then came back again and said, this ain't over. I got more coming.
Of course. As he's shown since the minute he took office, he's willing to do all sorts of things and push certain agendas, and that's his right as governor. But we have the right to vote on these things. So, when you reach out to your elected officials, particularly your legislators, you can affect them. You can affect their decision-making process if you reach out to them and express your concerns and your thoughts and have them discuss that with you. You can literally do that. But when they don't hear anything from you, they vote on in other ways. So what they used to say back in the day, the squeaky wheel gets the what?
Gets the oil. Gets the
Yep.
oil. So from the clerk's perspective, were you surprised? Not from a political perspective, but from the clerk's perspective. I got to make sure I put that in perspective too when I ask you these questions, because I'm not trying to get you in a political conversation. But were you surprised on the number of folks that showed up to vote?
To be honest with you, I was excited because I know that, and most people who are politicals know that early voting turnout is kind of indicative of what the race itself is going to look like on election day.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as I saw that 20,000 number crossed, I said, okay, we should have a good turnout and a good result.
Mm-hmm.
Based on, the likelihood of a good result or a good turnout, I should say, is good. So barring any extraordinary event or rain, I felt like we should be in a good place. We should have a good turnout, which I'm always more. It depresses me when I see those low turnout numbers. And, we work so hard, my team and I, we work so hard. We have over 2,000 people that are involved in the process of organizing and putting on an election. And when we don't have the turnout that an election deserves, it's sad.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, I was over the top. From the moment I woke up in the morning, I said, today is going to be a good day. I took a look at the radar. I said, it's going to hold up pretty good for most of the day.
Mm-hmm.
People should take advantage of it. And they did. I got to give it to our citizens. They did. They took advantage of the moment, and this is what can happen. That race in Orleans Parish, those numbers in Orleans Parish, there was a 60+ thousand vote difference. That's huge.
Mm-hmm.
That is absolutely huge. And not only that, it looks good for Orleans Parish, but Orleans Parish affects the whole state. So that affected the numbers statewide as well. And as you know, like, let's say in races such as the governor's race, back when John Bell ran in his second term, this New Orleans showed up.
Orleans, East Baton Rouge, and those areas, I think those were the factors that made John Bell and put him over the top against his opponent. So those were usually the ones too. But I do want to ask you this though: if you had to, what is because there's another election coming up in what is that? Is that May? When is the next election?
I think it's May 2nd.
And that's more than likely going to be where something else is put on the ballot too, right?
I believe we're past the deadline for something else to be on the ballot. I think right now it is a millage for the sheriff's office.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's going to be on it by itself. And it's going to be, I hope, our citizens show up and participate in the process again.
Right.
From my vantage point as the clerk and chief elections officer, I just want to see people show up and vote.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, I can't comment on how to vote and all that other stuff, but I want you to participate. And hopefully they'll do the same, for the next election as well.
Yeah. Very good, sir. I know you had a lot to do. I know you got it out and got it done. Glad to see it. And I know your staff been working very hard to get those machines out too. So
for sure, man. It's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, very good. Darren, thank you, sir. I appreciate the conversation. I just said, I know somebody got to know what got these folks out here to vote.
Man, I'm still over the moon on that one, man.
Very good.
It's great to see us participate.
All right. Thank you, sir. I ain't going to hold you. I know y'all gone for the day, boy, and y'all need to have a day off. So
Exactly.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it
All
again.
right, brother. I appreciate you, man.
All right,
Keep doing what you're doing.
Right.
All right.
All right, Darren Lombard, who is the Orleans Parish Criminal Clerk of Court and also the Chief Elections Officer, giving us some insight. But what is it that made folks go out here and vote? Did we do a good job with getting the information out? Did folks not have something to do because they thought the weather was going to be bad? Because I'm sorry, weathermen, Mr. and Mrs. Meteorologists, y'all got that one wrong. I thought we was going to have a whole bunch of severe weather. It came through this morning, but I thought we was going to have a whole bunch of severe weather on Saturday. Y'all got that one wrong. So, 504-582-9422. And for your governor's comments, I thought was a little low. Maybe he is licking his wounds to the point where he got his, just be honest, got his butt handed to him. Because folks was like, we not going for that. We not going for that at all. So you can tell us about our state that's just, geared for defeat or whatever you called it, all you want to. You can say that all you want to, but it does not mean that the state is not geared for progression. I just say, okay, when I heard this, here it is. Although we are disappointed in tonight's results, we do not see this as a failure. We realize how hard it is to get positive change to be implemented in a state that is conditioned for failure. Conditioned for failure. That's what he thinks Louisiana is, conditioned for failure. And if you think that, why would you want to run for governor of a state that is conditioned for failure? So I did see where there were some things that folks didn't like in the election process. I did get a telephone call. I'm not going to call the name, but the person called me upset because she voted absentee, but didn't have, I think, her mother's maiden name on it. And they ended up throwing her ballot out. So she was like, oh, okay, cool. Well, you threw the ballot out. Well, can I go and vote myself in person? Because if that's the case, I will. And they told her it was too late. But the election was still going on. Interesting. But I wanted to make sure that, we knew that with all this evil, because I just think that these elections in this process were evil. If you knew it, then what we had was an election that had amendments that were going to lead into something else. And if they lead it into something else, then you're going to be sitting back and going like, what had happened was, and the appointment of other judges, to me, that scared a lot of folks. Pop Jones.
Hey, G-Man.
What's going on with you?
400 years.
Minus $3.99.
Slavery.
Minus $3.99 because we got past that on this weekend.
Oh, buddy. And wasn't that something?
Yep.
I've been preaching that for the longest. And I tell you, I respect everybody's opinion. But you know our opinions are.
Everybody got one.
Yeah, everybody. I knew I've known all along. I've been on this planet a long time. When you could say what you want about the voting, I would like to see some changes. I'd like to see the politicians do better, but we got to hold their feet to the fire.
Mm-hmm.
But man, it don't even enter my mind but voting for anybody other than who I vote for. Party, I mean. Because you see what we got, but you see what we don't get when we go out there and vote right. What you think about that, G-Man?
Well, I think folks got the information.
Right.
And that's the part that makes me go, what's any different than any other time that people got the information this time but didn't get it the last time? Maybe this was something that made folks they were interested in that they got the information.
So G-Man, you think that's the difference? They got the info. What about in the past? How do you get information?
I think
somebody got to just tell it to you, or
I think we had too much. I think we had too much going on in the city other times compared to this time, because everybody was like, I need to sit back and do nothing because the weather gonna be bad, and the weather fooled everybody.
Yeah.
The weather fooled everybody.
You sure did.
So
got rain Monday.
Right. So people didn't do nothing. So they had something to do. That was go vote.
Right.
So I think that's the difference.
Well, G-Man, it was proven if you do what you got to do, you won't get what you get, and it will work out in your favor. Because these people don't care nothing about nobody. That's a part they don't realize. Gee, man, I'm a veteran, and I go to the VA hospital. One of the first things they did was got rid of a whole lot of them. And see, when you go to the VA, I forgot to tell you this. You see a lot of them coming in with their red cap on.
MAGA?
Huh?
MAGA hats?
Make America great again.
Yeah, the MAGA hats.
Yeah, yeah, you see them at the VA hospital.
Oh wow. Oh wow.
Can you believe that?
Well, when you're in a foxhole and bullets are going over your head.
Don't look! I can talk on that.
I don't care what color you are.
Yeah, who gonna save you? I say.
Who gonna save you? There you go.
I let some of them die. If some of us had let them die, they wouldn't be here today.
Yep.
Yeah, you're in that foxhole with them.
Yep.
You know, protecting them and everything.
Yeah, they'll think twice about that one.
All that.
All right, Pop, let me take my break because music's playing.
All right, G-Man.
All right, my friend, good talking to you.
Where's the jazz man?
He out today.
So. He out today. All right.
All right, we'll talk later.
Talk to you later. Have a blessing.
You too. All right, more coming up, folks. Everybody hold tight.
This is Monica Pierre along with Sally Ann Roberts Daybone, co-host of Your Power is On.
Your Power is On gospel music show is coming on at a new time. Tune in Sunday mornings from 7 to 8 a.m. for music that feeds the spirit. Get your Sunday on.
Right here on WBOK 1230 AM and WBOK1230.com, the station you listen to
all day long.
Hi, this is Arnie Filko. Let's elevate every Tuesday through Thursday from 6 to 7 o'clock p.m. as we discuss the community, the country, and the world, from politics to current events to sports. We look forward to your input and continuing the quality programming on your community station, WBOK. Join Carrie and I every Tuesday through Thursday, 6 to 7 o'clock p.m. on Elevated Conversations, the Arnie and Carrie Show. See you soon.
WBOK and LCMC Health are proud to present Keeping You Well Cafe. 60 Minutes with LCMC Health, where the doctors speak directly to the people of New Orleans. LCMC Health is committed to improving the quality of care here in New Orleans, the Gulf South, and beyond. The Keeping You Well Cafe is another way for LCMC Health to engage with the community. At the Keeping You Well Cafe, LCMC Health joins WBOK and local businesses to answer your questions about wellness and health.
Hello, I'm Gary Clark. Please tune in to Dr. Clark 101, The Living Classroom, which is broadcasted weekly every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. on WBOK 1230 a.m. on your dial. And as always, it's been a pleasure.
In recognition of Women's History Month, WBOK 1230 a.m. presents Her Story Spotlight, honoring extraordinary women whose achievements have redefined what's possible.
March is Women's History Month, a month dedicated to recognizing and celebrating the contributions of women to our society. This is Kimber White Dupree, sharing information about Dorothy May Taylor. Dorothy May de Lavallade Taylor was an educator and politician in New Orleans, the first African-American woman to be elected to serve in the Louisiana House of Representatives. From 1971 to 1980, she represented District 20, since renumbered in her native New Orleans. She had started her career as a teacher in the Head Start program, designed to benefit children in their early years. She was also active in civil rights in the 1950s and 1960s, gaining more resources for facilities for African Americans in the city. She worked in issues of healthcare, childcare, racial discrimination, and inhumane conditions in state prisons. As director of the Central City Neighborhood Health Clinic from 1980, she also worked to develop African American leaders among her staff and mentored a number of future politicians in the state. In 1984, she was appointed by Governor Edwin Edwards as head of state of the Department of Urban and Community Affairs, becoming the first African American woman to hold a cabinet position. Taylor began her career in public service in the Parent-Teacher Association, demanding equal supplies and funding for African American children from the Orleans Parish School Board. She was vital to the desegregation of New Orleans Recreation Department as well as other voter registrations. Ms. Taylor's most memorable contribution was to have authored an ordinance insisting that all Mardi Gras crews stop discriminating and institute an open admission policy for anyone seeking to join their organizations if they chose to use the city services to hold their parades. The reaction to this ordinance was swift and downright vicious. Old Line crews threatened to end Mardi Gras by refusing to parade if this ordinance was enforced. Ms. Taylor held public hearings that forced the club members to answer questions that they didn't even ask in private. Dorothy Mae Taylor, a woman of influence, a woman of power, a woman in history.
WBOK 1230 AM celebrates Women's History Month and the visionaries and innovators who broke barriers and paved the way for generations to come.
WBOK 1230 AM. Listen now on WBOK1230.com.
Here we go. The reality check on WBOK 1230 AM.
All right, folks, welcome back. You know what? I forgot to tell y'all about what we did this weekend. But listening to that Dorothy Mae Taylor story made me come back to a couple of things. Actually went to the honoring of Dorothy Mae Taylor at her church off of where's that? Off of Toledano in that area, uptown, to go and see. They did a placard. Keith Plessy, who is descendant of the Plessy versus Ferguson issues. If we go back to that, we could have another conversation about that in itself. But they have a placard installed this weekend at Dorothy Mae Taylor's church. Had the opportunity to go with the sheriff. Got a chance to see Cynthia Willard Lewis. Councilman Eugene Green, of course, he was there. And all of us were, I was surprised that there was not that much. I thought the church would be full. As much as this woman has given. But as we sat there when they unveiled the placard on the church grounds right beside the church and the church hall, I got the opportunity to hear, and I didn't even know this, Dorothy Mae Taylor's son was there, and the rest of the family. They were there. The children were in the church, and Gerald Taylor got up and he spoke, and he started telling stories about Dorothy Mae Taylor as his mom. And I was just intrigued that we had never heard, well, let me say this, I had never heard those stories before. So, of course, I went in my wallet, got my card out, and after he finished talking, I walked up to him and said, "Sir, excuse me, I'd like to know, would you come and do my radio show?" And he said, "Sure." So on tomorrow, coming into the studio, the children of Dorothy Mae Taylor, Gerald Taylor, is coming into the studio to sit down, and we're going to have a conversation about Dorothy Mae Taylor. He's going to tell some of them stories. I said, "I want you to tell those stories." He said, "Man, I got no problem talking." And he didn't. And so he's coming in here on tomorrow. Y'all going to learn something about Dorothy Mae Taylor on tomorrow. So that was part of my weekend. Okay, let me give you the other part. On Wednesday, well, let me tell you the beginning of the story. So Wednesday, we got another guest coming in. But I had the opportunity to go over to Dillard because Dillard had their health fair over at Dillard University in the professional building. And I got a chance to see my good friend Nick Harris, And we were just talking but we went into the auditorium. And in the auditorium, Troy Sawyer had the young ladies playing trumpet. Girls play trumpet too, the organization. And they were in there playing trumpets. It's about 25, 30 of them, the little babies. Not all of them little babies, but young ladies, I'll put it that way. And they were all in there playing their trumpets. So Wednesday on the show, Troy Sawyer is coming back to the radio station to talk about his next big event. And we're going to try to present him with something. I don't want to give away the whole surprise, but we're going to try to present him with something that's been on my mind for the last, I think since the last time I went to go see them in the Little Ninth Ward. So Troy Sawyer is going to be with us on Wednesday to have this conversation. So, but I am like geeked about tomorrow. If y'all hear these stories, if he tell these stories like he told in the church on tomorrow, y'all gonna learn a whole lot, not only about Dorothy Mae Taylor, but y'all gonna learn about their daddy that allowed Dorothy Mae Taylor to be able to, have her foot. I don't want to sound chauvinist when I say allowed, but it freed her up because he was the breadwinner. So he went out working while she was taking care of those children. And as she became an activist in the community, it then got the attention of a lot of political folks. And that's when they started asking her to run for office. You got to hear the stories. You got to hear the story. So please, y'all do me a favor, spread the word. Tell somebody to be tuned in tomorrow because they're coming in at 4 o'clock. And I didn't even know that they were even here. But they will be here tomorrow. The children of Dorothy Mae Taylor are going to be here to talk about their mom and their daddy. And they will be here for 4 o'clock. All right. Hopefully you will be tuned in because it's really intriguing. It's really intriguing. And Mr. Gerald, he can tell some stories. You can tell he can talk. It's very good. I'm going to leave it at that because I'll tell the whole story. And then y'all be like, well, you done already told it. Nope. I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to be quiet so that he could tell the story. And it's very intriguing. But I thought the church would be full. But if you get a chance, go off of Toledano and take a look for yourself over at the Mount Zion, I think that's Mount Zion AME Church. Because in the front yard of the church, they have a placard that is dedicated to Miss Dorothy Mae Taylor. And it is a beautiful thing to see that they honored her. That was her church. That was her church. And it's really a great thing to see. A great thing to see. All right, coming up, we'll have some more conversation about what happened over the weekend. Did you go vote? And everybody tell me your experience. Some of you went out and said, okay, we're going to vote, and I'm going to get it done and quick, and they ended up in a line. Had a lot of folks that called me and said, man, they coming through here. Called a couple of different precincts. Precincts was like, it's been steady. But we still have some work to do. We still have work to do. Now, understand why I'm saying this. Even though that we're looking at the numbers for the city of Orleans, official turnout for these 4 amendments was still 30%. Now, I know, and I heard the clerk, Darren Lombard, said, I'll take it. But should we be satisfied? 30%? How about on the next one we get 40 or 50%? How do we do that? I'd love to hear your ideas. More coming up, y'all. News at the top of the hour. Get your calls in at 504-582-9422. More coming up next.
From the campus of Xavier University.
Look.
WBOK 1230 AM. Go. An Equity Media Station.
I'm Doug Davis with 4 things you should know with BIN News. Maryland Governor Wes Moore, who is black, is blaming the operators of a cargo ship for the deadly collapse of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore last year. Moore told CNN State of the Union the ship set off with serious mechanical issues. The black suspect in the shooting of 2 Memphis rappers has been found dead in Texas. Authorities say 21-year-old Jaden Dandridge shot and killed the rapper known as Say So P and injured Salsa Walker earlier this month. Police in Houston announced that Hunt's body was found this morning. Rapper Sean Kingston and his mother are being found guilty in their federal wire fraud trial. On Friday, a jury convicted the 2 who were accused of defrauding several companies. The pair pleaded not guilty to all counts. A new poll shows half of Americans approve of President Trump's performance, with black Americans strongly criticizing his executive orders. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Here we go. The reality check on WBOK 1230 AM.
All right, folks. Here we go. 5 o'clock. You're off and headed home. Drive with care. All right, let's go through some of the numbers here. We gave them one time. We give them again for those that are just checking in. When we start looking at Amendment 1, talking about the attorneys that were trying to create their own courts and limited jurisdiction. Nine, not even double digits, but 9% of you said, yes, we want that. But on the other hand, 91% of you said no. So to show you the disparaging number there, boy, 6,972 votes said yes, but 74,333 folks said no, for a total of 81,305 people voting. Early voting numbers. All right, here are the early voting numbers. This is the disciplinary proceedings of attorneys to create courts in limited jurisdiction. The early voting numbers had it up to 13%. Had double digits in early voting numbers. And the early voting numbers for no were 87%, which ended up being 18,524 for a total of 21,313 people for Orleans Parish, which I was happy about, because it showed that folks were paying attention to it. And I really got to say this to the folks that were out here working on the ground. All right. I really want to say this to the folks that were out here working on the ground. Y'all did some good work. Probably didn't get no pats on the back. Probably didn't hear nobody say, good job. But y'all did some good work out there. And with that being said, how do you keep it up? Let's go to Amendment number 2. To provide with respect of the power of taxation, including limitations thereof. Number 2. 9% of you said yes, 7,705. 91% of you said no, 73,629, for a total of 81,334 people in Orleans Parish. This is not state numbers. This is Orleans Parish. 30.8% of you turned out to vote for that one. All right, for number 3. To provide relative to crimes committed by juveniles in a special juvenile proceedings, where they wanted to be able to charge your child as an adult. 9% of you said yes, 6,902. 91% of you said, oh no, 74,284 people. 30.8% of the people coming out to vote for a total of 81,186 votes. For number 4, to provide for election dates for newly created judgeships or vacancies in office of a judge. 10% of you said yes, 8,229, but 90% of you said no, 72,969 for a total of 81,198. Again, 30.8% of you turning out to vote, which was great. Lakeview had something on the ballot too, which was the Lakeview Crime Prevention District, which was a $150 parcel fee. 56% of you said yes, 44% of you said no, which was interesting. That was an official turnout of 27.3% for 3,356 people who voted for that in Lakeview. All right, T-Bone.
Good evening, y'all. What's happening?
What's going on?
I'm going to reiterate the thought that the good doctor said this morning. I'm glad to hear New Orleans and the state as a whole came out and did a thumbs down to all 4 of them things. I really am. I really am. And on a messed up rain day, or messed up weather day, rather. So here are a couple of thoughts. 1, for the next major election, whether it's for bills, whether it's for candidates, depending on what it is, how about a unified ballot for people like Bold, SOUL, the Alliance for Good Government, that will explain in less than legalese why different amendments or bills or whatever are bad for the community. Second, a true social media presence for these organizations and for others that are trying to educate the people in simple to understand, less than political talk. Make it easy. In computer terms, we have this acronym called KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Now, don't sit up there and get offended by that. All it simply means is instead of us talking technical jargon over your head, when we explain something to you, we make you understand it in simpler terms. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
And third, have true town hall meetings in this community. I don't know if anybody's been paying attention, but you can Google this, or YouTube it. There's been a lot of places where, since the Republicans are scared to come, that's right, I said it, scared to come to these town hall meetings they call, people have tried to do their own town hall meetings without a candidate there or a representative or whatever there. And some of the Democrats have seized on it. Have a true town hall meeting with a lawyer or some kind of representative that can explain in simple terms what these things will do. Now, I know BOK is going to do their part. That's why I didn't include that in my list, because they've done their part in terms of giving us information. Every time there's something that comes up, every time that there's an issue that's going to affect this community, that's why I continue to listen to this station, because y'all provide some good information. But these things need to happen, because when you expect voters to come to a less than popular electoral event, you're going to have to encourage them to want to come out. You can't just sit up there and say, oh, there's an election, go vote.
That's not good enough anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not. People got lives. People got other things to do. And quite frankly, some people be like, oh, that's that BS over there. Why do I need to pay attention to it? You're going to have to make them pay attention to it. That's what's going to have to happen.
But how do you make somebody pay attention to it?
You make the issues pertinent to their own lives by giving them the information. All you can do is give them the information, and they do what they want to with it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't make people use the information for what they should use it for. If you tell somebody right now, Donald J. Trump is trying to mess up Social Security, if they don't really realize, well, how is that going to affect me? I mean, I've been getting Social Security for 5-10 years. I'm a retired person. I'm going to have my Social Security. I worked hard for it, this, that, the other. If you don't explain to them that they've cut this many federal jobs, in particular in the Social Security office, you may not get a check next month on time in your bank account. Oh, they better not do that to me. But guess what? They're trying to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why? Because that's what he did by executive order. Well, how can he do that? Because Congress is not stopping him.
Nope.
Well, what Congress got to do with it? Because Congress allocates the money. Well, wait. See,
well, Congress
you
is not
explain
stopping
to them
him.
a lot of things
No,
in that
Congress
little bit
is
of
not
prep.
stopping him because he's not going to Congress. He's doing everything by executive order. And so,
Exactly.
And so far,
Exactly.
he's dead.
But you have
at
to
least
break
200
that down
of them.
to them. You got to break it down to some people in baby bites.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sorry if that sounds derogatory, but remember how we broke down Project 2025, and I'm going to keep going back to this. Because people act like, we didn't tell you, why is he doing this? He had a 900-page document blueprinted to give him all of this to do. This very station read it, word for word. And I applaud you for that, sir, because that was a lot of legalese.
Mm-hmm.
He broke it down for 2 weeks? 2 weeks straight, G?
Yep.
How many weeks you went over that document?
For at least
2 weeks straight. 2 weeks straight.
And there's going to be some more.
And if you didn't hear it here, you could have Googled it when people started talking about it. No, you had your head in the sand. You didn't believe us. And here we are.
Yeah.
And again, baby bites so that people can consume and digest that information and understand what is it doing to you, what is it going to do to you as an individual, and why you should not vote for this. And that's what BOK does. They bring that information to the people, and they give you the information. Now, what you do with it is up to you. I tell you right now, I heard your car squeaking because something's going on with your brakes. You know now that you got to look at what's going on with your car. But if you choose to ignore it, whose car is it affecting? Yours. Did you choose to do anything with the information? Yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
It's on you.
Yep. You're right.
All
right,
and that's what you got to come with, that respect for it.
Coolin'.
All right, y'all.
Thank you, brother.
All right, y'all.
All right. Ronald.
Good evening,
What you
Jerome. I got to do a disclaimer. If I get to not to call somebody names or organization, it's not purpose. It just was a lot. But I want to say thank you to a lot of organizations that have been at it. As the brother was just saying, what we need to know, and I need to say it now, they made this thing personal. On the street said, look, your 14-year-old can go to jail for stealing something out the store. You'll never see him again for the rest of his life. He or she. And all this stuff was made personal. And folks got into it, and a lot of people did a lot of work. We had some elected officials gave seminars online every night. Reverend Torrance Sanders, again, I'm going to forget some names, but I know for the last 90 days, because I've been a part of it, and I want to thank everybody for allowing me to participate and come out. We had unions, you name it. this was so good to see what the folks in this city done and throughout the state. And we had some Divine Nine members. We had the 100 Black Women of Louisiana. The list goes on and on and on. They actually worked. And nobody really wanted to be on the news, but they did the job. And I've been involved in politics all of my life. And this election that just passed, it reminded me of the days of Dutch Moria. Nobody ran their mouth. They worked. You saw the council people. You saw our elected officials, with Royce DePlessis, Delicia. It goes on and on. Seminars every night. As the nights you were on the radio, Torrey Sanders at his church, they had seminars, breaking it down, talking. So hats off. And I know I missed some folks. You know where I'm at. I'm sorry if I missed it, but you know what you did. And I know most of the ministers and most of the folks that worked this election, they're not in the spotlight. They wanted to get to the finish line. Despite the thing of the weather, despite all that came out, we showed up. And what kept the fire lit, WBOK, I can remember that one. They kept the fire lit. The flame was there, and all these organizations and individuals did some wonderful things. And I'm just so proud to be a part of it. I want to say thank you to everybody, every contribution that was put out. I know people bought water the other day, stopped and bought water. The vote organization, a bunch of them. Everybody's just doing this. Was a mission. And I'm encouraged that we're going to do this. And if you look across the state of Louisiana, African Americans brought it to the table.
Yep.
Now, we're not going to sit on our hands. We're going to continue because there are other things that are coming. And who ever thought this system would have been in the runoff with these two guys funded like they were?
But you know, Ronald, one of the things, too, I want to add something to what you said, and that is the momentum shift with this amendment failure. But shouldn't this be the exact time that those same organizations are now looking around and saying, okay, we see what happened with the people that did vote. Now those folks that have not voted, aren't registered to vote, hadn't thought about voting, getting to the young people, shouldn't we be going after them now since we see that momentum to say, let's get these folks so that we will become the biggest voting bloc in the state of Louisiana?
And this evening, as I finish this radio and my tour of duty, we are looking at that 9% area that voted for the amendments. We're reaching out to them as well for the next time. And the ones that stayed home, we're going to reach out. But the strangest thing, we had a seminar last week. We are on the books. We are definitely on the books in New Orleans. Right now, the population is 50. We're just a few points over in pop, but we're on the books. The need or the urge to come out is the challenge, and that's what we just experienced. Okay. We had folks been on the books, just didn't vote, but as we had those conversations, I tell you, the biggest sticking point with me was simple. Your 14-year-old daughter or son can go to jail for shoplifting, and they never come out again.
Yeah.
And I don't bite my tongue. That was my message. And I go back to the Home Rule Charter, member number 2. It was very simple. We lose our property because we can't fix it through court enforcement. But now the 2% of the budget going to go to fix your property, help you purchase it, and to develop it. You notice I put that in order.
Yep.
In North Carolina, they did the same thing, but they had the developers first-time home buyers, but the existing homeowners, same thing. They lost their property because they couldn't repair.
We'll get to that point in a minute, but I got to take my break because I do have Torrance Sanders standing on, but we'll get back to that.
Right.
Thank you, Ronald.
Well, tell him I say thank you because he made it simple.
I appreciate you,
brother.
Thank you. All right.
And thank you, too. And thank all the listeners to everybody. I'm listening. Thank you again.
All right. We'll take the break. Let's take the break. And what we'll do is come back, have some more conversation in just a minute, and we'll get back to our conversation. Everybody hold tight. More coming up, y'all. Hold on, Mac. Hold on, Kevin.
New Orleans, are you ready? A fresh voice in the city is here, bringing you the beats, the culture, and the stories that matter. From local music and food to real talk on what's happening in the streets. We've got you covered. Stay tapped in. Follow us on all platforms at WBOK 1230 for the latest updates and exclusive content. Your city, your culture, your news. Don't just hear about it, be about it. Follow WBOK 1230 now.
Connect with NOLA Public Schools. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and X for the latest updates. Sign up for District Digest, our official newsletter where we share district achievements, celebrate student successes, and keep you informed about our vision of providing a high-quality education. And don't miss our school board meetings. Watch in person or live stream on YouTube. Stay informed, stay engaged. Visit NOLAPublicSchools.com today. Again, that's NOLAPublicSchools.com.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana communities through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation, please visit us at www.jazzandheritage.org.
Welcome to The Community Scientist. I'm excited to bring you our quarterly review of the latest research. If you live or work in St. James, St. John's, St. Charles, Ascension, Calcasieu, Baton Rouge, or St. Bernard parishes, it's vital that you have access to clear, objective information about lead, hexavalent chromium, and cadmium, and how these substances impact your health and our natural environment. The Community Scientist is a service program of Rise St. James, supported by our dedicated TCS research team. To learn more, visit risestjames.org.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM. Here we go. The Reality Check on WBOK 1230 AM.
All right, folks, right back at you. Mac, what you say, Big Money? What's Spain Mac? We miss you? All right, we'll come back to you. Kevin.
Hey, good job, man, with this thing that we got passed, getting rid of all those bills that they was trying to push on us. Look, my conversations are always the same. It never changes. First of all, we can make people do things, but how we gonna have to do it is like the man said. He hit it on the head. Put it where the goat can get it. Keep it simple, okay? But we have to, if we really want to make a difference, this one-off success, we got to get off of these one-off success. We got to go on the offense, okay? And what we have to do, we like to talk about culture. And we like to talk about we on top of our game and all that stuff. Look, if we really want to compete, we're going to have to do like the diets. You can't do a diet, man. You got to have a lifestyle change. We have to start having, and a brother hit on it, we have to start having think tanks. And when I say you can make people do something, if you change the culture, you change the mind, okay? And to do that, it's repetitive. It's just like anything else. When you start, look, whenever you want to be a world-class athlete, you got to keep practicing over and over and over. You want to pass this test, you got to keep studying. If we want to have a world-class, and I say world-class, we just want to have a people who competing, we're going to have to start doing this on the regular. So it's not like something that just comes up. And we got to quit fighting everybody. It's not about fighting. Black people need to know cause and effect. We need to know our history. This is what they've done. This how they did it. And this is the new iteration of it, how it looks. Man, we're dealing with people still fighting the Civil War, man. And they're doing it in a different way now. We have to be able to let them see the similarities of what it is, because all they're talking about really is everything is dog whistles. Negroes are taking over. DEI. Come on, DEI. What's wrong with? Nothing wrong with that, other than the fact that's associated with black folks. Okay, so we're gonna have to start coming together on a daily basis, thinking about our history. And if we don't do this, man, our life. We got to do this like our lives depend on it. I don't know if we know it. And it's not just our lives, black people's lives. It's affecting white people's lives too. Mm-hmm. And almost indirectly by hurting us, you're hurting yourself because now you don't have us contributing to the betterment of the nation because we've been held down, so we can't contribute anything.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, we have to let people see that, and this is not a black-white thing. This is about we're only strong. This is a team. America is a team. If we don't see ourselves as a team, we shooting ourselves in the foot. All of us, black, white, and everybody else.
Cool. All right, Kev. Let me take these other calls, brother. Appreciate you much. All right. West Spain Mac.
What's up, Big G? How you doing?
What's going on with you, Big Papa?
Man, I almost jumped out a window when I saw those numbers. I was so happy, bro.
Yeah, ain't that something? Everybody was calling. I mean, it was amazing to me the number of people that were just calling to say, we did it.
We did it. And look, bro, we needed a win. We needed a win so bad. But what's hurting me so bad, G, my daddy, 93, right? I go pay his light bill, $280 every month. He got a one-bedroom shotgun. Every time I go, I see people in there breaking down, crying, looking dejected, looking overwhelmed. I accidentally forgot one day, and they cut his lights off like in 2 seconds. No phone call, no nothing.
Wow.
$50 reconnect fee, all that, G. And I got 4 light bills. Wow. I got a business. I got a rental property right now, and I got my house, and I got my dad's house.
Mm-hmm.
That's 4 light bills. So I accidentally forgot our people are so beat down. Where they going to find time to vote when they working 2 jobs to keep their lights on? Our elderly people they just look so downtrodden. We've got to find a way to lift the people up. And then they'll vote. Now, I don't know who this group Vote is, but I walked out my door the other day, and they had this big old flyer, vote no, 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 no. Now, this is in Stonebridge.
Mm-hmm.
Vote no, 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 no. And there was 2 black ladies walking up the street. It was kind of hot. They had their umbrella and their cane. They were very old. They told me I couldn't buy them a pull boy. Is it illegal for me to buy them a pull boy? All they're doing is walking around handing out the vote sheets on people's door.
Mm-hmm. They're nonprofit.
Right. But, I mean, you can't buy them lunch?
Voice of the ex-offender.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Voice of the it was Voice of the Ex-Offender. I think they changed it, though.
Okay. They had shirts that say Vote. I don't know what organization
that's what Vote stands for.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know they couldn't take a sandwich, but they was out there doing great work for somebody who might not have paid attention, but I knew already. So I ran and voted, but they had no. Your radio station needs to be commended. What is it, Kimber in the morning?
You know what it is now? Voice of the Experience. I'm sorry, I said voice of the ex-offender, but Voice of the Experience.
Yeah, but they say they couldn't take a shrimp sandwich from them.
Probably not.
Yeah, that's okay. But, man, what happens when we come together? When black folks actually get their mind right and come together, nobody could touch us. But it's just we so beat up, G.
But Matt, so this is something I just said to I said this to Ronald, and I'm gonna say this to everybody because maybe we need to put this in the atmosphere as well. So while everybody is like taking one and saying, "Hey, look, we won this one, we got this one, we got this," and there's a little momentum. I just don't think that everybody should be like, "Woo, thank you much, man. See you next time." Mm-hmm. It should be more of, okay, see what happened when all of us come together?
Yes.
Now I need to have those same organizers, those same folks that's in the community, those same organizations, nonprofits or whatever it is, to get these folks that didn't vote, that are hearing about the dropping of those amendments, to get registered to vote. To get the young folks to say, hey.
Why don't we put together a celebration for those people who brought us out? And while we celebrating them, we also invite people who feel like they don't want to vote no more. Well, and watch them be celebrated and then talk to them.
And we need for them to see the success of the success of the failure. That's what he called it. He called it a failure. I'm talking about Landry. But we need folks to see the success of that failure, because I'm telling you, there's more coming. There is more.
So we just just gonna have our boxing gloves on forever, huh, G?
Right. It look like we just need to be. We gonna be in some good shape because we gonna be in the ring. We gonna be in the ring throwing some uppercuts, and I can tell you that they're not stopping. They're not stopping.
That young lady in the morning pushed those no's on this radio station, and I am so proud of y'all, man. Because the amendments could be very tricky. You could vote no and be voting against your own interests.
Yep. Yep.
On some amendments, not these. But, gee, how we build on this momentum? What's the first step you would take? First step you would take to build on this momentum?
That is my first step. That would be my first step. All right, cool. Thank y'all very much. Go ahead on and take your victory lap. But don't just get a victory lap and go home. Take your victory lap. And now let's find out what's going to be the organizing to get people to get ready to vote. I mean, one of the biggest organizers of getting folks registered to vote was right here in the city of New Orleans. And, you know, when the governor, what's his name? What's his name was in office? Before him.
Okay.
Haipusha, whatever his name was.
Yeah, I know you're talking about.
He cut the organization out in their funding.
Was it Piccone? What's that damn dude last night?
Jindal. It was Jindal.
Oh, Bobby, yeah. He killed everything.
He killed all of that, man.
He killed all our mental health.
Vanessa Garringer worked for
because of him.
Vanessa Garringer was one of the biggest register of voters at that time, and she made sure that she got folks registered to vote. And
man, this group vote was on the street. We got to celebrate these people. These ladies was like 77 years old.
Yep. Voice of the experience.
Voice of the experience. Gee, I'm so proud of the girl in the morning, though, man. She stressed those no votes and really challenged people. And what broke my heart, I tell everybody, this breaks my heart. That time you went on the radio and you listed precinct by precinct, 12 people voted, 16 voted.
Yep.
By noon, I was crying.
Yep.
By 3 o'clock, I was crying. You came on, I guess, 1. By 3, I was in tears. It's ridiculous.
Yep.
But we are light years away from that. And I feel like we cheated Sean Wilson. He needs his shot again, and we need to show this type of power again.
Yeah. Well,
Sean should be back in there, and we should be rallying behind him. I don't know who the head of the Democratic National Party here in Louisiana, but they need to be whipped.
Well, some of this has to be Sean knowing what his key organizers, what is your base?
Right.
You got to know what your base is.
I agree.
And that base, to me, now it's just me, I don't have the statistics, but that base didn't feel like they were being included. And going around the whole state, because I remember Sean called me a couple of times and said, man, I done put about 80,000 miles on my car. I said, I understand. But you got to go talk to your base. You got to tell your base, this is what I'm going to do for y'all.
Right.
And I don't know where we got this. I don't even know what to call it. I just don't know where we got this feeling of I need to talk to everybody. No, you can talk to everybody after you talk to your base.
Right.
Dude, you from Algiers.
Be door-to-door in Algiers.
You need to talk to your base. And the base that I know, that everybody know you, because I know your mom. I know you. I know your family members. I know where you came from.
I went to church with your uncle, all that.
Bruh, that's your base. That's your biggest supporters. And it's black folk. And don't be scared to say it.
Yeah, because I know you want to win the state, but you got to start with what's yours.
And don't act like that black folk ain't going to vote for you when they know that you are somebody different that's usually running for the seat.
Is he gearing up again, you think?
Nah, he got a big old job somewhere else in Louisiana, so he gone.
Okay.
He gone.
But, gee, anything I could do to keep this momentum going, man, you just tell me, because let me tell you, this felt so good to me.
My phone's still ringing off the hook.
I flew around and started with St. Tammany Parish and almost jumped out the window the wrong way. When I saw the North Shore, I'm like, oh. Then when all the results came in, it was just beautiful to see.
Yeah. And you know, Governor Landry lost his own parish. Where he from? What's that, St. Martin?
Wow.
He lost them too.
We in for it, man. We getting ready. We gearing up.
Right.
You
You know,
marching
and
on April 5th.
they gonna come
with those
harder
people?
this time. They gonna come harder this time because they won't lose.
Should we be out there April 5th when America marches against Trump?
America marching. I think that somebody is organizing that here.
Yeah, it's April 5th.
I heard that someone was organized. I don't know, so I need to find out first. But we'll find out.
All right, thank you, G. I appreciate you, man. Y'all keep up the good work.
Always, Mac. Thank you, brother.
Love you, brother.
Appreciate you. All right, Jerry. Jerry.
Yeah, how you doing, Gerard?
All right, what you
I
got?
was going to give you a little input, bro. Trumpocracy is still working, all right? The only thing we got working for us, I see Bernie Sanders and that other lady getting out there. It's a good thing right there. But I want to put them on point that the Republicans are getting a free ride. I mean the ones who know better, bro. The ones who know what they're up to, the ones who know the Constitution, the ones who know that the Constitution should be abided by. They getting a free ride. Guys going in their neighborhood where they should be holding town halls, but they getting a free ride because ain't no pressure coming at them. They need to put them on defense and say, you going to stand up for democracy? You going to stand up for the Constitution? You love the Constitution or do you not? Them boys getting a free ride. Don't let them get a free ride like that. Put those where those people in those Republican
Who's getting a free ride though? You keep saying those boys and them.
The Republican congressman, the Republican congressman.
You think they getting a free ride? No, I think that's changing.
They sticking with Trump. They ain't went against him.
I think that's changing because they're not because they sticking with Trump. I want them to stick with Trump. Keep sticking with Trump because what you're seeing is now America changing about Trump. These folks are holding town halls in their own communities, and the folks that don't look like me and you, Jerry, are showing up at those town halls, booing and heckling those folks that's sticking with them.
But
so let them stick
town
with
halls
them.
Ain't gonna get to vote.
Let them stick with them.
Republican members they sent there gonna get to vote, whether they with Trump or against Trump in his program, bro. That's what I'm talking about, bro.
I'm trying to tell you that there's a whole lot of farmers and a whole lot of other places than just Louisiana that ain't getting the money because of Trump and they Republicans. And they promised them over $300,000-$400,000 and all this other stuff that they're supposed to be getting, and they're not getting their money. You think they're gonna stick with that? They're not gonna stick with that. It's affecting them.
Look, you are right, Gerard. I'm not saying you're wrong, sir. You gotta listen to what I'm saying, bro. Them same people who voted for that representative, for them who letting that happen and not saying nothing and not voting against Trump when it comes to votes up there.
They scared of him, Jerry. They scared of him.
I don't care, but that's why you got to put the people on them. That's why you got to put the people on them.
I want them to stick with him.
People who voted for them.
No, you want them to stick with him. Stick with him because you are making your own constituency mad as hell at you. And now that they get mad as hell at you, don't forget we got mid voting coming up in what, about a year and a half? It's gonna change.
Hold it up to that term.
It's gonna change.
Hold it up that long, Gerard. What if the Supreme Court vote in Trump's favor in any one thing? What if they vote for his favor? I'm talking about the highest Supreme Court vote in his favor.
About what?
One thing. You know what that means? Trumpocracy is winning, bro.
About what? Vote for him about what?
Huh?
About what? You're saying what if they vote for him? I'm saying vote for him about what? What are you talking about?
Okay, this last proposal they passed, they had to have 10 Democrats to vote with them, right? Right.
You talking about the budget?
But if some of them other Republicans who know right from wrong had voted against Trump, they wouldn't have had the votes. They wouldn't have had the votes even if they did have.
And we would have had a shutdown.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you would have had. You wouldn't have had no shutdown.
You would have had a shutdown if they didn't vote for him.
If they'd have voted against him, you wouldn't have, Gerard. Would you?
Yeah, they would have had a shutdown.
If they voted against him, and if they had voted with the Democratic proposal,
why do you think Chuck Schumer voted with him? Because he didn't want the shutdown.
And that was a wise move. And still, in my opinion, they have other people with different thoughts about it. But in my opinion, they wouldn't be there negotiating right now if they wasn't still open. Because Trump was going to shut them down. He's going to say they ain't even working for the government. They lied. They got. There's something that we're forgetting about those Trump's group. Trump group has no scruples. They don't care about lying. They don't care about the truth. and they will make stories up, bro. That's the think tank he got. And that brother who talked about a think tank about us, we need to do that. We need a think tank because they got a think tank. Those Republican think tanks, they find out ways to skirt the Constitution every day, all day. And right now, they just waiting for the Supreme Court to make the highest Supreme Court to make one ruling in their favor, and Trumpocracy is.
What ruling are you talking about?
Any ruling that the ruling say to bring those people back, the people they moved out of this country.
That's not going in their favor.
Without giving them any kind of way to listen, and without giving them any kind of way to defend it or say if they was really a member of that group or not, they still out of the country. They haven't brought them back. No, they have not made them commanded that they bring them back because they did that without permission to do it, without actual permission to do it. They did it. They haven't made them come back. The Supreme Court, they filing against that. It's going to the Supreme Court. Now, obviously, they're going to take it all up that far. If they rule in Trump's favor, then you got Trumpocracy.
But it's not at the Supreme Court. It's at a federal judge who's not finding that to be.
But he's going to take it to the limit. He's going to take it up there.
Okay.
That's what we got to worry about, him taking it up there to the highest court. He's going to take it up there. Ain't no doubt about it. And if they rule in his favor, you got Trumpocracy.
And that's why you say it's going to be Trump. What did you say, Trumpocracy?
Trumpocracy, bro.
And what is that?
We're not.
It's something else other than
to
democracy.
Do it his way. To do it his way. Hell, what the government say? The government say we're not supposed to do. Okay, all right, good. Or do it. And make them make us not do it. That's what they're doing right now. They doing stuff and making you make them not do it. Make the federal judge tell them to change their mind or to rescind the thing they did. They're not rescinding. These judges are going and ruling against them, and that's a good thing. But what about when it gets up to that highest court? That's the one you got to look at. If you get up to the highest court, they call that a constitutional crisis or whatever they call it. But it's not a crisis. It's really a continuation of Trumpocracy instead of democracy.
So if you take something to the highest court, you call that a constitutional crisis?
It's going to be a constitutional crisis if the court ruled with Trump. They will call that a constitutional crisis because it goes against the grain of the understood Constitution amendment, the way it's worded. That's what I'm saying.
Mm. And when has that happened?
It hasn't happened yet because they haven't brought
because
the
oath that they
have
take.
They brought those up.
The oath that each one of those folks take at the Supreme Court is supposed to be to honor and to always protect the Constitution of the United States.
Yes, sir. That's right. And if they do, we good.
So it has not happened yet. So I'm trying to figure out what makes you think that's going to change.
No, it ain't gonna change. I'm saying just what you're saying. It hasn't happened yet, but I'm telling you, if it does happen, that's when the constitutional crisis take place, because they did something against the constitutional law as written, and they did not suffer a penalty. The Supreme Court voted with Trump.
Okay,
that's where you got a constitutional crisis, because they're not carrying out the rule of the law. That's what I'm saying.
All right, Jerry. Thank you, brother. I got you. Appreciate it.
Right. All right. Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. We'll take the break. Let's just take the break. We'll take the break. More coming up, y'all. We'll also go through some of these numbers when I start talking about. I think I brought up statistics in this race over the weekend about the amendments. I also had the precinct results. I can't go through every precinct, whichever one, because there's plenty of them. But I will start telling you, it's interesting to see the numbers of the precincts that showed up. More in just a minute.
AURN News.
I'm Ebony McMorris.
President Trump again saying the part that Americans need not miss again. In a phone interview with NBC News' Kristen Welker, Trump declared, "I'm not joking about seeking a third term in office," suggesting there are methods to make it happen. That's despite the 22nd Amendment, which clearly bars any president from being elected more than twice. And if you're wondering how serious he is, Trump doubled down on Air Force One, calling it a potential fourth term, but then said,
"I don't want to talk about a third term now because no matter how you look at it, we got a long time to go."
Now, this isn't the first time Trump's teased breaking term limits, but his most blatant attempt to yet normalize what would be a constitutional crisis. Trump even played coy when asked if J.D. Vance's presidency could serve as a Trojan horse for his return. He said, "That's one, but there are others," and didn't elaborate on this call with Kristen Welker. For these stories and more, go to AURN.com or follow me across social media at Ebony McMorris.
It's Off the Top with Norman Robinson on WBOK 1230 AM.
You know, it's no surprise that Donald Trump would do the unthinkable. He signed a vile, senseless, hateful executive order to remove the ban on segregation facilities in federal contracts. Yeah, you heard me right. He wants to allow segregation. His executive order means that segregated facilities like restrooms, restaurants, and drinking fountains are okay for federal contractors if they should opt to use the policy. This takes me back to the onerous days of Jim Crow, when there were separate facilities for black and white people. I can personally attest to the hate and cruelty of such a policy. When I was a young child, I was beaten for drinking out of a water fountain designated for whites only. The segregation policy okayed by Trump is limited to federal contractors and is in essence only symbolic. Federal and state law still outlaw discrimination in the country. Even so, the Trump administration's removal of the 1965 ban against segregation in federal contractor facilities is a shot across the bow of civil rights. It is an indication of just how far the Republican president will go in his hateful effort to dismantle diversity, equity, and inclusion in the federal government and the private sector. In this particular case, the policy only applies to U.S. government contractors, but telling everyone, especially those spending our tax dollars, that it's okay to segregate is not okay. This is an attack on race, though Trump and his GOP allies vehemently deny that their actions are rooted in racism. To that I say to them, don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. And tell Donald Trump he can take that apartheid South African racist Elon Musk back to South Africa. This is Norman Robinson, Off the Top.
Tune in to The Monitor's Mic, where we talk about oversight, policing, and you. Hosted by the Office of Independent Police Monitor, we're here to shine a light on policing issues that matter, from real-time policing updates to in-depth interviews. Every Friday at noon on WBOK.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
Welcome to Liberty Bank and Trust, where your financial journey transforms communities. Since 1972, our customized banking solutions power your dreams and fuel your community growth. Every dollar you invest with us circles back to empower more people, ensuring opportunities for generations. Join us at Liberty Bank. Together, we empower possibility. Visit libertybank.net to start banking with purpose. Liberty Bank, there's freedom here.
Hey, Pontchartrain Park. Thanks for listening to WBOK.
Here we go. The reality check on WBOK 1230 AM.
All right, folks, welcome back. One of the things I wanted to do with this past election was look at the precincts. Because the precincts tell you, you know, what you did, what your friends did, tell you which ones we saw bumps in, or those precincts that did not do what we thought they would do. That is important because if you don't start looking at some of the polling places, and you all can call in and ask too. You all can call in and ask too. Some folks want to know, what did my specific polling place do? And give me what your zip code is. Like mine is what? 70124. And I can look up, whatever the polling place is. And if you don't have that information, then, especially if you know somebody that lives in that area that could go into that polling place. Precincts from, let me see. Let's find your precinct. You actually can go back and look and see, click here to find your polling place, whatever your zip code is. Let's say 70128. And then you put your address in, and then I can find out exactly what your precinct is. All right. What you say, Mr. Bill?
Ward 9, Precinct 31B.
Hold on. Ward 9.
Ward 9.
Oh, right when you said it,
31B.
I didn't hit the wrong, Hold on.
Okay.
Me and this mouse ain't been getting along here today.
Take your time.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I went and voted shortly after 9 o'clock Saturday. I was looking at that weather report and say, damn. Usually in the summertime voting, I like to go about 5 or 6 o'clock to see what my list looks like. How many people have been in there before me. But I wanted to make sure I got my digits in, and I was surprised on the outcome too, especially with that weather report that we had. It was shocking.
So I was looking at the weather report, and I was saying to myself, I was like, this might be one of the reasons that we have low voter turnout.
Man, that's a damn good excuse to say why I didn't go.
But what I saw was that they got it wrong. And I don't know if anybody else saw this, but I think they got it wrong. And that made me go, it's not severe weather out here. So how is this going to be severe weather? And you telling the folks that this is severe weather.
Neutral ground parking and all of that crap. But you know how fast weather clouds can roll in and blow you, fill up the gutters and what have you driving in 6 inches of water.
But this morning we saw, all that weather come through. So I was like, did y'all get y'all days mixed up?
Days wrong, whatever.
Because it didn't look like to me that there were, any weather where we had bad weather, especially Saturday.
I was surprised at the turnout. Now, we're talking about 30%. Fortunately, not 9, 11, and things of that nature.
We had double digits, but, and I was asking the clerk of criminal court, Darren Lombard, who also handles the elections, and I asked him, I said, hey, man, I see everybody all happy about this, and we're talking about 30% turnout, but that's low.
Yeah, it's still low.
He said right now,
9, 19.
Right. He
17.
said right now I'm gonna take it. Right now I'm gonna take it. I said okay.
Exactly. Got the job done. I heard individuals on the conservative end of the deal saying no here in the local area.
They said what?
Radio shows were saying no. They were voting no on the amendment.
Even the conservative folks.
Yes, sir.
No.
Down there on Jeff's radio station.
Really? Oh, Lord.
Yes,
Oh,
sir.
my God. That's where you went.
They were saying no, especially on number 2 about the amendments and leaning towards no on the others. But yeah, it was amazing, man. Yeah, I got out here, like I said, a little after 9. That's very early for me on election day.
What precinct? What precinct are you talking? Tell me, look for.
Ward 9, Precinct 31B.
You know what? I'm on the wrong page. That's what it was. Okay. I had the right page and I hit the wrong button.
There you go.
Voting precincts.
I was number 27
to vote.
That day. Yes.
Ward 9. Okay, so your numbers show that you had an increase of folks that went to your voting place as far as the precinct is concerned. It states, oh, you had an increase. You had a pretty good increase. Your increase was 28% of an increase, which was good.
I ran into a brother I used to work with out at Michoud, and this was the first time. Well, our precinct had moved from the Baptist Seminary, and this was the first time he had made it to Methodist Church where it is now, and that's been like 3-4 elections ago.
Right.
And I say, wait a minute, you just now finding out? Well, you haven't been voting properly.
Right.
I got on him,
and that's what it is.
You know?
Somebody hadn't been there to vote.
Yeah, he hadn't been there to vote. So he's going to Baptist Seminary looking to vote.
So I'm going back again. Let's see, Ward 9. I keep hitting the wrong button. Ward 9 and what?
31B.
31D. That's the New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary. 39 Gentilly Boulevard. Okay. So.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going through the numbers now, and as I look at this, the precincts. Let's see. Ward 9, 31. I'm at 33. I went 31D. Or
B as in boy.
B. Okay. So here it is. Official turnout was 26.6%. I said it was a 28%. It's actually 26.6 percentage turnout, and that meant 131 folks turned out altogether. 129 of those 131 voted no, and it was 2 that voted yes.
I understand that there's some Caucasians out here as well, and that vote at that particular facility, and it's a couple. Well, I've never seen them there.
Now that was on just the First Amendment. Now I can pull up all of them. That's just the First Amendment.
Okay.
Let me give you the Second Amendment. That's Ward 9, 31B, right?
Yes.
31B. All right, here we go. You had 131 folks, that show up. 26.6%. 97% of the folks that voted in your polling place said no. That was 127 on number 2, on Amendment 2. But 3% voted yes. That's 4 people. So you had more to vote yes on this one.
Yeah.
Than any other one. So let me see. Ward 9.
You don't have any names and addresses, do you? Never mind.
don't be having no parties out there in the yard now. Now check this one out. 26.4% voted on the crimes with kids and saying what should be their voting of putting kids into out of juvenile court into grown folk court.
13, 14-year-olds, yeah.
130 people voted. 98% of the folks said no. That's 128. And you had 2 that voted 2%, which was 2, voted yes. That's 26.4%. So there you go. And I give you number 4 when I get back, but I got to take my break.
Got you covered. Thanks a lot, man.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Later.
All right. More coming up, y'all. News is next.
Have you heard the secret of what New Orleans is talking about? I promise everything will be okay if you're listening here on the airwaves. It's that WBOK 12:30 a.m.
From the campus of Xavier University.
Yeah.
WBOK 1230 AM. Go. An Equity Media Station.
I'm Amber Payton with 4 Things You Should Know with BIN News. Black Maryland Governor Wes Moore is blaming the cargo ship operators for last year's deadly Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse that killed 6 workers. He tells CNN they let the Dolly vessel sail despite major mechanical problems. A lawyer for Black New York City Mayor Eric Adams is urging a judge to drop bribery charges before Thursday's primary ballot deadline. An independent lawyer already recommended dismissal, but the judge has not ruled yet. Adams denies any wrongdoing, and his team is reportedly frustrated by the delay. O.J. Simpson's Bible, gifted by Robert Kardashian Sr. during his legal troubles, just sold at auction for over $80,000. Kim Kardashian tried to buy it, but was turned down by the Simpson family. And President Trump has commuted the sentence of Aussie Media founder Carlos Watson, who was set to begin a nearly 10-year prison term for defrauding investors. The move came just hours before Watson, who is Black, was due to report to prison. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Here we go. The reality check on WBOK 1230 AM.
All right, folks. My number 504-582-9422. That's 504-582-9422. If you're trying to figure out what your polling place, what your precinct, where you go to vote, if you want to hear your numbers, call me up right now. 504-582-9422. I'm telling you, get it in now because I know the numbers are going to get, meaning the telephone numbers. I know they're going to get filled up. So get them in now so I can tell you what your folks did at your polling place, because that's what I'm doing right now. Your polling place, your precinct, whichever one you prefer. Call me now so I can give you the numbers. Mr. Bill, I got you on amendment number 4, the newly created judgeships of vacancies in the office of judge. On that amendment for Ward 9, Precinct 31B, you're going to be like, what? Five votes. They got 4% said yes, but also 96% said no. With 124 votes for a total of 129 votes at your precinct. Official turnout for that number was 26.2%. And just because I need you to do this, all you got to do is call me and tell me what ward and what precinct, where you vote at. Where do you vote? I'm more than likely can find it and tell you. Let me see. Let me go through some places that I know that I like to look at. The Milne Rec Center. The Milne Rec Center off of Franklin Avenue. That is Ward 8. And 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 is your polling place. That's your ward and your precinct. All right. Let's see. Several different places that we need to make sure that folks are going to know. Do you know your place? What you say, Mike? Mike.
Yeah, how you doing, Gerard?
What's happening, brother?
Can I mention something else before I give you my polling precinct, or is
sure.
Just focusing on that?
Go ahead.
Look, I've been wanting to call to say this because I think it was about 2 weeks ago. I heard Troy Henry on another radio station, and the guy was, questioning.
He got his ass handed
business
to him.
dealings.
That's what he got. He got
Wait,
his
let me finish. Troy destroyed him.
Yeah.
Not just made him look bad. He destroyed him. It was terrible. It was so bad that a couple of guys who were from New Orleans who live. One I know who lives in Georgia, and the other one lives in Texas. They were talking about how much she destroyed him and how misinformed the guy was, because one of these guys actually does that. And as far as letting a contract to a city, but I said all that to say it goes to show you when you come with an already preconceived ideal, then you talk to someone and they reduce you now to the uninformed idiot that you came across as being, to the point where he had to even tell them that, no, you just seem to have a problem with black people who do better than you.
Yep.
I mean, I enjoyed it, and I wanted to call the station to tell
Scoot
Troy Henry that I remember the H&W days, and this almost topped that. But anyway, he just destroyed that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And it goes to show you about that radio station and what they do. And I didn't call y'all up to talk about another radio station. I mainly called up to talk about one of the co-owners of this radio station. And, I would advise a lot of people who listen to go back and pull that back up if they can still, I don't know. And they'll get a real lesson on when people put out misinformation about individuals bent on them just having a problem with them doing business in this particular city and how to handle them. That was textbook.
Yeah.
Anything you wanted to say about that before I give you my
I heard the whole thing. As a matter of fact, after that interview, I had Troy on with me, and I was like, Troy, it's like, it's apparent to me that the host didn't know anything about contracting in the city of New Orleans, but wanted to have a conversation about it. If you don't know anything about it as a talk show host, because he kept trying to bow out as not being misinformed. He said, hey, I'm just a talk show host, but I do have an opinion. Well, your opinion is wrong. And if you don't know anything about contracting in the city of New Orleans, then how are you going to have a conversation about it? And one thing that you got to know about contracting in New Orleans, that everybody has a DBE component, because he was so bad about him being a DBE. I was like, well, the person that you cheerleading, which was Torres, you should do the homework on that, because Torres has a DBE component.
DBE
and by the way,
right.
his DBE component is his white mother.
Right. And I mean, Troy was so on it that particular day and informative about. I didn't know that. Most people, 99% of people in the city wouldn't know that. But I mean, it shows how informed he was, how much he did his homework, and he knew who he was dealing with. And not only he showed that guy's ignorance, he showed them to be what they are, And I'm not gonna say what my good friend says what the call letters are, but
I would have been embarrassed if I was a talk show host.
After that, he got off, and I kind of heard the guy later on, and I mean, he's a joke. I mean, he's a complete joke, and
Well, the other part of that is, after you have been told that you're doing all this misinformation, you've been looked at as misinformed and an ass. You didn't invite the man to come on to your show, but you want to talk about him, but you were misinformed. Well, the next thing you do, what do? You go back to your bread and butter of the misinformed people, which was actually Torres throwing up all these different issues. And the reason why, now this is me saying this, and it's apparent to me the only reason why Torres is throwing that up is because he wants to keep that contract.
Well, of course. That's what it is. And they want to give him that contract. Anytime the lieutenant governor of the state is weighing in on contracts let by the city of New Orleans and what they should do and who should keep it. Hey, man, all I'm gonna say about him, man, just stay cool. You stay on the side, brothel. But anyway, you know, and you know, because you got dirty stuff out there yourself.
I gotta say,
So-
he had his own issues. So, you know,
right.
sometimes
I
it's
mean,
better.
everybody know why you couldn't run for governor, dude. You know, so
Right.
you know,
And don't be throwing
in
no
the mi-
rocks when you're living in the glass house.
exactly. And so, in the midst of trying to, you know, belittle or embarrass or whatever the contract, you know, with Troy, I thought he did an outstanding job. I mean, I had my ears up, and I usually don't listen to stuff like that on the radio unless it's sports. But man, I tell you, he was on point and all that day. Handled that guy, dismantled that guy, and all he could do is, you know, bring on Torres and Chile. So I mean, you know, all they do on there is promote what they promote. They're not. I mean, it's like listening to Fox, quote unquote, news on television. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So, but 43K.
All right. Wait a minute. Hold on. You're in. Make sure I got everything right here. You in Ward what?
Ward 9, 43K.
Ward 9, 43K. Let's see, 38, 43, A, B, C,
The
D,
ward
E, F, G.
that if it didn't exist, the city would.
Oh, you in St. Maria Goretti?
Mm-hmm.
All right. 43K. Boom, 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 boom. Let's see. Let's go through the first one here. Your precinct. 943 HIJK. I learned the alphabet. Oh, your folks showed up? Well, 21% of the folks showed up. So it got double digits too. 173 votes. 3% said yes to number one, which was the creating the jail limited jurisdiction. And then 168 said no. So 173 folks showed up. That's still 21%.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good because what I did notice, I was kind of surprised, and I went late in the afternoon. The number of people I saw for off, you know, midterm, not doing a mayoral, gubernatorial, president election.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed it for that type of election. I was looking for less people, and it actually seemed to be a few more. But I'll say this about that: they tried to sneak it through, and they could have waited, like all the people at the Legislative Black Caucus said. They could have waited to, you know, later in the year to do it.
Right.
But they were trying to deliberately get it done during an
Off election, so they knew it was going to be low voter turnout.
Low turnout, and they still got destroyed. I'm so glad that Trump minion from New Iberia, wherever he's from, got it handed to him. And so hopefully this is a forerunner for things to come. And for all the people, especially these young people who saying voting don't count, you know, Saturday proved that to be a fallacy, you know. And
so, Mike, one of the questions that I asked, and maybe you can put some knowledge to this too. One of the questions I asked was, how do we now take that momentum that all of us are proud about and get those folks? Because no matter how we look at this, and I know this is I'm not being Debbie Downer here, but 30% of a vote is still low.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So now how do I take that momentum?
I'm with the clerk of court who says it beats 9 and 11 that you had been getting on off, you know, major elections.
Right.
You know, like I said, gubernatorial, presidential, mayoral, that, you know, you usually get even half of this.
Mm-hmm.
And but this tells me that this, you know, and this, let me say this, and this thing was pushed by I'm going to tell you who really pushed it that I'm aware of, and I'm not going to call names, but I'm going to just say a lot of black ministers was really pushing this in their congregations hard. That I know for an absolute fact. So
when you say pushing it to vote no?
To vote no.
Yeah.
They vote no on everything.
Yeah. When
So,
you said
you
pushing it, I'm like, wait a minute, they was pushing it? I was like,
oh, no. Well,
no, they were pushing it to vote no.
Black congregations, black ministers were telling their congregations.
And they need to have them conversations more often, telling their congregations
and
what
so,
to do.
so between that and just, I guess, just how things went, because you could look at Trump minion from New Iberia, and you could see they were shocked. They even brought in what's the billionaire, the Koch. The Kochs even helped them send that. They sent attorneys who they deal with to send down to write the legislation. That's how much money they and right wing Republicans, nationwide came and got involved with this, and they still lost by over 60%.
Yep.
The state is still, they say by the census, I think 32.5% black, which means it's probably more like 34 or 35. All you have to do is get the people to register to vote. Mississippi, I'll tell y'all even more because y'all 37% of that population. And you could block a lot of stuff just by block voting, but people just have to become aware, and do what they need to do in regards to, what's going on in this city, because I'm an older man now and I look at the city now and I've become very disenchanted. That vote actually gave me a little hope. But we'll see how this, pans out in the long run.
Somebody asked me, they said, what you think going to come? I said, sit back and watch them now start talking about the purge and how they're going to purge people from the voters. That's
definitely coming. And then one of the things I wanted to say, and I didn't hear any of the black politicals who were talking about those 4 amendments say this, but one of the things that scared me about the one involving the courts, it sounded too much like what they've done in Mississippi and Jackson, where the state has come over and pretty much taken over their criminal courts.
Yeah, that's the same thing. They did say that. They said that. They may not have said it a lot, but they did say that. Talking about appointing judges,
right,
instead of having the people's election process
happen. Wheel on that, and it happened to them. It has happened to them.
Yeah, it happened to Jackson. It happened outside of Jackson.
And you know where it just happened? Just, I think, last week, too?
Where's that?
It was in St. Louis, Missouri. It
really?
Just happened also. Yes, just happened there also. And so, black people got to become aware. They're going to, just because if you become the voting majority, all they're going to do is go to the legislature, get their judges intact, and find another way to try to get around you and where you can't even govern your own city.
Yep.
And if you don't believe me, New Orleans, look at this charter school system. You don't even get to run your own schools.
Yep.
So, and if charters are good for us, well, why it's not in St. Tammany? Why it's not in St. Charles? Why it's not in other?
Why isn't it above I-12?
Right. That's my point about that. These people are so full of you know what. And anyway. But look, have a good evening, and I'm glad it passed. And hey, tell Troy if I saw him, I'd give him down right now. Later.
All right, Mike. Thank you, brother. All right, Jay.
Hey.
What's happening?
Oh, nothing much. Just tuned in, and I wanted to know about Ward 7. Precinct 7.
Hold on. Let me see. Ward 7.
Precinct 7.
Precinct 7. You got the 7 7s.
Yeah.
All right. So Ward 7. That's engine house number 27 on Elysian Fields.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Let's see what we got. Let me go through your amendments here. Your precinct on amendment number 1. That's Ward 7. And 7-7. Oh yeah, you got some double digits there too. 24% of the folks showed up. That's still a little bit lower than what we want. We want to get it back up to 30, so we missing 6%. We had 149 folks to show up to your ward and vote. You had 9 folks that voted yes, but you had 140 that voted no. That's on amendment number 1. On amendment number 2. Ward 7, precinct number 7. Same thing. You had 24.5. You had 7. Yeah, well, you had a little bit more. 7% of the folks voted yes on amendment number 2. That was 11 folks. And on the no, it was 93%, which was 137 for 148 folks that voted. On amendment number 3, excuse me. Let's see. You had 10 folks that voted yes. 93% of those folks, which was 137 folks, voted no, for a total of both of 147 with 24%. And then on amendment number 4, let's see what you had here. 7 and 7. You had 139 folks to vote no, which was 95%. 5% voted yes, which was 7 folks, for a total of 146 votes. That's still 24% overall. So what I would say is that we still in that area that vote for that precinct and that ward, we still need to get those numbers up a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. But I had brought my wife about 7 o'clock that night because I vote absentee. They usually send my ballot to the house. And I asked her, I said, she came back out pretty fast. I said, what they saying? She said they said that they had been studying all day long. So I said, oh, that's good. I said, it's probably not going to pass then. The amendments probably won't pass.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like I said, I get mine early, me and my mom. My mom is 89. And I usually, we go through them together. And
well, that's good. You go through them with her.
I'm sorry?
No, I said that's good. You go through them with her.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I tell you what, though, bro. I don't. Mom was kind of hard to convince about that. Those juveniles and stuff, because but she went on and voted her way on it.
Yes, indeed.
But that's our choice.
Yeah.
But the thing is that we went through them. But when I got them early, I was like looking for some guidance on them, because I said, man, this is a lot of stuff. But I know one thing: I'm not going to give these legislatures here, in the state of Louisiana, any power whatsoever, knowing how this state normally votes on things.
You don't trust them.
I'm not going to give them any power, not a bit of power. That,
all right.
And I wish some of the things could change that are already in place. But the only way it's going to happen, like you say, get more votes out there.
There we go.
At least it's a step in the right direction.
All right, Jay. Thank you, sir.
All right,
Appreciate it.
man. All right,
I'll talk to you
thanks.
soon. All right, more coming up, folks. Everybody hold tight.
Late nights are made for chillin', and you can do just that every Sunday night at 10 p.m. as DJ Wick brings you The Love Zone. It's the perfect way to top off your weekend with your favorite old and new school ballads. So sit back, relax, and let DJ Wick take you to the Love Zone on WBOK 1230 a.m. and on the World Wide Web at WBOK1230.com.
NOLA Public Schools is excited for the rest of this 24-25 school year journey with our families, watching our students dive into learning, growth, and success. As the school year continues, our dedicated educators are focused on keeping every student engaged and motivated. Let's keep embracing new challenges, celebrating achievements, and supporting each other to make the rest of this year even more impactful. Stay connected with your school and NOLA PS through our social media channels for updates and resources. We're here to help our scholars attend today, achieve tomorrow.
WBOK and LCMC Health are proud to present Keeping You Well Cafe. 60 Minutes with LCMC Health, where the doctors speak directly to the people of New Orleans. LCMC Health is committed to improving the quality of care here in New Orleans, the Gulf South, and beyond. The Keeping You Well Cafe is another way for LCMC Health to engage with the community. At the Keeping You Well Cafe, LCMC Health joins WBOK and local businesses to answer your questions about wellness and health.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM. The Reality Check on WBOK 1230 AM.
All right, folks, welcome back. Welcome back. Let me remind you again, because I know some folks tuned in a little late and may not have heard. But tomorrow, man, I am so looking forward to tomorrow's conversation. Tomorrow, well, let me tell you what happened this weekend. I'll give you the whole story. I like to give you the whole story before. I had the opportunity to go with the sheriff, Susan Hudson. We went over to a church right off of Louisiana. And it was the Mount Zion AME Church. And we went there because they're doing the placard. Keith Plessy and all those folks over there doing a placard for Dorothy Mae Taylor, since that was her church. And I thought the church was going to be packed with the number of people that wanted to hear more about Dorothy Mae Taylor and the contributions that she's made to New Orleans. But it was a good number of people there. Don't get me wrong. Let me see. Matthew Willett was there. Cynthia Willett Lewis was there. Councilman Eugene Green was there. Susan Hudson, the sheriff, she was there, and some other folks. And forgive me if I'm not calling your name, but I got a chance to listen to the number of people that said, we knew her personally, and they started telling their stories and yada 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 yada, and they did the the conversation piece about her and the contributions that she gave to the city. Then right when we got ready to go, he came up to the microphone. Well, who was he? His name is Gerald. That is Dorothy Mae Taylor's son. And I didn't even know that her kids were here. And he started talking. Man, he told some great stories about his mom, but he also told some great stories about his dad and her availability to, make sure they were doing right in school, making sure that, they were headed down the right path. If they got into some trouble, she was there at the school, and how she maneuvered the political system. And I thought it was so interesting just to hear how she maneuvered, and was like, wow, where are those type of warriors needed in our community today? And so when I got to talk to Gerald Taylor, when I got a chance to talk to him, I gave him a card and I said, listen, I really need you to come on the show. Folks have not heard some of these stories. I've been here over 30 years, 35 to be frank, and I had never heard some of those stories about Dorothy Mae Taylor. He said, man, let me go ahead on and tell you, because he started off his conversation piece with, yes, she was a warrior. Yes, she did the politics. Yes, she did all of this in schools, but she was my mama first. And I was like, amen. And he started talking about who she was as his mom. And it's what? And then he talked about his dad, So I was just intrigued, and I invited him to come to the show. I was like, I don't know, they really gonna come or not? Hey, so he coming tomorrow. And I just told him, I said, look, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it in my thought pattern that you can talk, and I'm gonna let you do it. Tell us some of them stories about your mom. He said, sure, I'd be more than happy to. I said, but I'd love for you to not only just talk about your mom, but talk about your dad too. And he said, absolutely. Absolutely. So tomorrow, Gerald Taylor is coming in to have some conversation about Dorothy Mae Taylor. And I need to give a big round of applause. I hope everybody's applauding with me. To Keith Plessy. Y'all know Keith Plessy. With Plessy versus Ferguson, Keith Plessy, who headed up putting this beautiful placard on the church grounds at Mount Zion on Louisiana. If you get a chance, pass by and go read it for yourself. I took pictures, and I'm going to put it up on my Facebook page. But it was important that they did that. I really am surprised. The historical placard, it was a historical placard. I really was surprised that they just did it in honor of this warrior, this woman who has done so much to end segregation with our Mardi Gras parades, schools, being the first on city council, because y'all know Dorothy Mae Taylor used to fight on city council, and she won't scared of no fight. And she would go up in there and make them pay attention to what she was saying. So I want everybody to be there tomorrow. Call in, making sure that you are part of that. Don't miss this show tomorrow, right here on WBOK. All right, so the other part of my conversation piece this weekend, did a lot this weekend, man. We went to 6 different churches this weekend. I had a couple of conversations with folks about who is running for office. And they heard my conversation on Friday, where I made it a point to say, I really think that some of these jokers that are in office, that we put in office, and some of these folks that are in office that we put in office are there because we didn't go vote. They won because nobody challenged them, or they won for low voter turnout. But did they win because you went and voted? And I would say no. So, what does that mean, Gerard? This election should put some fire underneath a lot of us. Well, why do you think that? I'm glad you asked. I could sit here and make this a black-white conversation, but I'm not. Well, maybe not. I need to make this a conversation that our other constituents understand that they're just in the same boat that we are in. The only difference with them and us is the fact that you may have something that you're waiting for that you may never get. And that's a lot of money. For what? Well, especially if you farmers. I don't know if you all have noticed or not, but every week now there's a conversation on the news about some big farmer and in Louisiana that's not getting the money that is due them in a contract for humongous crops that are being shipped to other parts of the world. That's one. And I saw one Friday that is talking about it was actually talking about the number of folks that are looking around and saying the price of eggs, the price of eggs, the price of eggs. But what we have not considered in this price of eggs issue is the number of farmers that are raising chickens, hens, that have the bird flu that are being killed. And they dying. And they wondering what they gonna do about it. And they're looking for the CDC, John Kennedy, and all of them to come forward and say, oh, we got a vaccine for you. Oh, we got something we can give them to get rid of that bird flu. And Kennedy ain't doing it. He basically is coming up with all other alternatives, saying you need to do it this way. And they're doing it. And guess what's happening? The birds are still dying. He will not say you need to give them this shot of vaccine. So in my estimation, now I don't know about you, but I kind of put estimates together and say, you still a vaccine denier. Not only are you a vaccine denier for folks, babies, you a vaccine denier for the chickens. And you wondering why egg prices are going up? Well, baby, those farmers that are having these hens and chicken farms are not getting any type of help from the Trump administration. And they do not. Let me rephrase this now. I said I was not going to have no real pointing the finger type of conversation here. But they do not look like us. And now they're not getting the checks saying, hey, this is how much money you need to operate, and they're having to lay people off. They're wondering when their next check coming. They're wondering when they're going to get this money, and they're not getting it. I need you to get prepared because the price of eggs and a whole bunch of other stuff is getting ready to go through the roof. It's getting ready to go up. It's getting ready to go up because they're cutting the funding for all of this. And to me now, again, I have to hear the folks say, well, don't worry about it. They're going to take it to court. And those judges are ruling against the Trump administration. So you're going to get, that money, da-da-da. But when? Is it going to be too late? Are they going to go out of business? Are all the chickens going to die? We have no idea what this is all about. Tariffs. You want people to pay all this. Y'all do know that the tariffs is coming this week. If you're going to buy a car, you're going to buy some liquor that's coming from overseas, you're getting ready to buy some type of good imports from other parts of the world, you better get them before Wednesday. 25% tariff starting Wednesday. Are we prepared? Because that level of inflation, when we talk about 25%, I don't know what this man is doing or why he thinks that's okay to put this tariff on it because you think other countries, but I'm saying to myself, tariffs. If America puts a 25% tariff on imports, it's the Americans that got to pay for it, right? Not the other folks. They just shipping it over here. If I want the goods or services, I got to pay for the tariffs. If I want to buy the car, I got to pay for the tariff. The thought process is to make America great again by putting these tariffs up, thinking that other countries going to pay for them. They're not. We going to pay for them. Thinking that we're going to bring manufacturing back to America. We're going to bring manufacturing back because nobody wants to pay another 25% tariff on top of something. So guess what it's going to do? It's going to bring manufacturing back to America. Well, do we forget that we're dealing with the richest country in the world? If it's something that you want or something that I want, we're going to pay for it. We're going to end up paying for it. What's that going to do? Inflation. Inflation. So the question is to you all, do you think that we're going to go through what he called Liberation Day on Wednesday? Because I think he's going to come forward and say, I put a halt to it. I put a halt to it. And we're going to delay because some of this to me has just become stupid. Now, let me say something to my African American brothers and sisters. And I've heard this in several different churches. We went to, how many churches we did? 5 or 6 churches this weekend. And the message from the pastors has been, and I heard this in my own church as well, sit back and just watch. Because it can't hurt us as much. We resilient and we've been through this before. We've been through a whole bunch of stuff before. So just sit back and watch. I don't know if I can sit back and watch. I sure as hell can't sit back and watch when I know that folks that are in poverty might be living in a little squalor or a lot of squalor, are going to be those that are going to be affected the most. When there's high inflation, when there's such issues of raising prices, it seems to me the people that are affected the most are those that don't have. We got a lot of folks that are becoming, now notice what I said there, that are becoming have-nots. Then what do you get? You get inflation, yes, we already know that part. But then what do you get? You get high crime, because the average person that don't have and they're in need instead of just wanting, they're going to do what they got to do. They're going to do what they have to do. That includes robbing. That means shoplifting. All of this is going to happen. Crime will more than likely increase instead of decreasing. And nobody wants to have that conversation. And then you got, the South African man walking around giving 2 people $1 million checks for their votes, buying votes. Before this goes on for a long period of time, I got to tell y'all, I really feel this way. And some people going to tell me, shame on you for even saying something like that. Somebody going to get hurt. Somebody going to get hurt. These folks out here living life and trying to live it abundantly, but you cutting into their abundance. And these folks don't have time for this. Somebody going to lose it, and somebody going to get hurt. You ain't going to be able to go nowhere and do nothing, because you don't know what crazy going to run up on you. You really don't. So I say that to say this. I don't wish no harm on anybody. I just want to make sure I clarify that. I don't wish no harm on even Trump. I really don't. But we living in a time right now where folks are losing it. They losing it quick. And have you noticed something? It ain't us that's pulling the trigger or trying to shoot somebody. Hello, somebody? Have y'all noticed that? It ain't us trying to break in the White House. Something going on, but it ain't us. We sitting back in the cut, listening. But I'm going to tell you this week, this is April coming up as of tomorrow. Tomorrow is April 1st. Wednesday, we'll see what's going to happen Wednesday with these 25% tariffs that we get ready to get. Because I can tell you, it ain't going to be cute. especially when automakers are going to tell us that nobody's buying their cars, especially when importers are saying nobody's really buying their products. And it's going to take us down to a recession or a depression, one of the two. But just be ready, y'all. I hope you got what you need and you're doing all your shopping, you're getting your eggs and all the rest of it. Just watch. All right, more coming up. We'll take a break here.
I'm Leo Jackson, host of Sunday Gospel here every Sunday morning, 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. and 12 o'clock till 2 p.m. You don't want to miss this move of God. It happens only on WBOK. You listen to all day long.
The National World War II Museum, located in the Warehouse District of New Orleans. The National World War II Museum tells the story of America's experience in the war that changed the world, why it was fought, how it was won, and what it means today. Visit them online at www.nationalww2museum.org for time tickets and safety information.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
Get in on the conversation at 504-582-9422. The Reality Check on WBOK 1230 AM.
All right, folks. Welcome back. Welcome back. I was just looking at the results from the election over the weekend, from the amendments, and looking at the precincts. 941B. Right. Okay. So I'm a little concerned. I'm gonna have to call Cindy Nguyen and have her to come in and have some conversation. That is Mary Queen of Vietnam was 941B. Yeah, I'm real concerned. Very low turnout for our Asian or Vietnamese community. In most communities, we were looking at least 24, 25%. I'd say 24%. In the Asian community, we only had 12.5%. 12.5%. Yeah, that's Mary Queen. Is that Mary Queen? 941B. Yep. Mary Queen of Vietnam at 5069 Willowbrook Drive. That lets me know that there's something wrong there. Unless there's another location. Because that's on Willowbrook. And I know that Mary Queen of Vietnam, that is a big church. I went to the installation of their new priest. 43G. What is 43G? 43G. That is St. Maria Goretti Church. Right? That's on Ward 9, 43C. Let me go back here. Let me see. Ward 9, 43C. Yeah. So remember I did the Mary Queen of Vietnam, and all of their percentages was like 12%. I went to not Mary Queen of Vietnam. I went to Ward 9, 43C, which was Maria Goretti. And Maria Goretti had 23.9%, so they almost doubled Mary Queen of Vietnam. Let me see, 9. What was that again? Maria Goretti, 43G and 43C. 9. 43C. Yep. Doubled them. On the second, the taxation without limitations thereof, respect to the power taxation, including to, on Amendment 2, doubled them. 24%. 270 folks said no. And 5% said yes for 14. So a total number of 284 people went to Maria Goretti to vote on number 2. Number 3, Ward 9, 43C. Here we go here. Yep, 24%. So that's consistent for St. Maria Goretti. I'm going through each one of the 943C. So y'all keep hearing me call 43C. That is the ward and then the precinct, which is at St. Maria Goretti. So again, even for number 4. Sometimes they change because folks can vote for one and then won't vote for the other one. 4% said no. 4% said yes. 96% of the folks that voted in Ward 9 and Precinct 43C said no. They said no, which was 96%. 273 folks said no, and 11 folks said yes, for a total of 284 folks. Official turnout, 24%. Because I like the stats and I like looking at the wards, I actually could sit here and do this all day long. 941D is Sarah T. Reed. Let me see. I'm checking the East. Yes, East, I'm checking up on you. 9 and 41D. I'm not even going to say that. Yes, I am. Wow. Okay. So we got a problem. Sarah T. Reed? They didn't go to Sarah T. Reed, the precinct? Now, even though that the majority of the folks voted no on this, 95% and 5% said yes, only 9%, now this is what we've been used to, only 9% of the people that's registered voters at Sarah T. Reed showed up to the polls. 9%. That was 9.4%. Only 59 people. Now you're hearing me say 100 and something here, 200 and something here. Well, I'm saying 59 people showed up at Sarah T. Reed to vote. I'm not even going to go through the rest of them with Sarah T. Reed. Let me find me another one. Let's go to Household of Faith, 943M. That one made me mad. 9 and 43M. 154 people showed up to vote. 4 said yes, and 150 said no, for a total of only 13.3%. That's 43M. Let me go to 43N. That's the same. 9 and 43N, which was 133 folks. 98% said no, 2% said yes for 3 votes. So that's 133 votes for a total of 17.1% of the electorate that showed up here. And some of these locations, I think that we got to do something with the location. So maybe I need to have a conversation with the folks about, hey, why the folks ain't showing up at Sarah T. Reed? What are we doing to get the folks to go to Sarah T. Reed? Maybe we need to do something else. Because I can find all the low voter turnouts in the locations. Maybe we can do something about the location to help people go to vote. Because that's going to be needed as well. Let me see. Fantasy Williams, 944p. $9.44. Yeah, they showed up at Fantasy Williams. 23.7%. 413 people altogether. 395 said no. 18 said yes. But 23.7% of the folks showed up to vote there. So good to hear that. We'll get it together. We're going to find some. Maybe we need to go through all of these locations and see why the folks ain't showing up at certain places to vote. But your numbers do count. And the more you do it, the better. All right, as we get ready to get out of here tomorrow, again, I got to stress, Dorothy Mae Taylor's children are going to be here. We're going to hear all about Dorothy Mae Taylor. That is tomorrow. On Wednesday, Troy Sawyer with Girls Play Trumpet 2. They're going to be here at 4 o'clock having some conversation with us. So make sure that you're part of the conversation, all right? But tomorrow, don't miss it. Tell some folks. Tell some folks. That's going to wrap it up for me. I appreciate everybody for being a part of the conversation. Hopefully you learned something today, and if not, you'll learn something tomorrow. Tell somebody, too, that we're going to be here.